Good morning once again. You are watching Sunrise at Sea, and I hope you are taking tips there of the daily skincare routine. That's what keeps my skin like this, and I am loving it. Well, you are right in time for our views this morning, and what we do here on our views is we get to discuss different topics and different issues and our different perspectives towards these topics and issues. The topic of discussion this morning is kids cutting their hair in schools. Compulsory cutting of hair in schools. But I am joined by my co-hosts, Sarah and Shivan. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Sandra.
How are you?
Good.
So what do you think? Let's dive right into it. What do you think about compulsory cutting of hair in schools? Is it a form of formality? Is it for grooming? Is it for hygiene? Were you in a school that cut hair?
Yes, and it traumatized me. I feel like it is just one of those routines that, in my own opinion, personal opinion, I would call very archaic, because it didn't add any value to me, it didn't remove anything from me, it just traumatized me all throughout my school.
How
Why?
so?
Because it was just wrong, because other people are allowed to have hair while I wasn't allowed to have hair. So I just found the whole procedure, I mean, it doesn't add any value. It doesn't make you maybe more brighter, it doesn't make you more beautiful or anything. It's just a way of, I felt like it was a way of putting us, the ladies or the young girls, putting us down. That is my opinion.
Well, I guess we'll be diving into that on our next conversation on our views, which Sarah will be taking the lead on. But Sarah, what was your experience? Did you go to a school that it was compulsory to cut hair?
My primary school, yes, it was compulsory to cut hair, whereas my high school, we were allowed to keep our hair. To have our hair, you could have it natural, or you could have relaxed it, or you could even choose to cut your hair. So it changed when I got to high school, but then I also realized and noticed that a lot of high schools allow girls to, keep their hair, whereas primary schools do not. At least most of them. Yes. There are about 111 schools in Uganda that do not allow for children to keep their hair. And those are the ones that are, recorded,
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm thinking that who does it benefit? Does it benefit the student, the teacher, or the parent, or the matron? You know how the matron would come for you in the morning. I was in a boarding school as well, and you had you had to have your uniform,
yes.
Your nails had to be cut, your hair had to be a certain way. So was it like a school culture, or was it teachers trying to not want to deal with it? You know what I mean? Like, just cut it so that it's done, than having to deal with some kids. I remember, like, in schools where we didn't cut our hair, you would see some kids that come to school with gum in their hair. Did you see those ones? You're like, really?
That's the whole part of enjoying childhood.
So did they not want to deal with that headache that schools ended up adapting a certain culture? Because everywhere you go, even in a workplace, workplaces are different. They have different cultures, yeah? So did most schools adopt this culture so that at least things were easier for them to deal with kids? Because it can be difficult to deal with kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of convenience, because the practice started back in the early 1900s,
Yeah.
and the missionaries trained students to be clerks, interpreters, and office messengers. So they say that they needed to be smart, and referring it to being neat and tidy, neat and tidy appearance. And then they also went on to encourage a lot of more children in high schools to what? To cut off their hair. Anyway, they said that they were encouraging uniformity and smartness, and that this was unachievable if because African hair was, hard to maintain.
Nappy.
But
yeah.
isn't that the more reason as to why we should have embraced it? I mean, it's African hair. Instead of cutting it off, maybe I'm thinking, instead of having it cut off, maybe schools should have taught these young ladies and young adults how to take care of it, other than getting rid of it. Because what impression are you giving me? That my hair looks so terrible, it has to be cut off? If it's the aspect of being smart, we have our hair right now. Don't we still look smart? If it's the aspect maybe of even complementing the uniform. I mean, we've still had people who have had hair and had their uniforms on and they still look okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's something, it's a culture, and it's just something, especially in the rural setting, because I might be speaking from the point on the urban setting, but especially for the rural setting, I think it's something that a conversation needs to be had instead of getting rid of it. I think the best way would be, okay, the hair is here, this lady, this girl has hair. Let us teach her actually how to groom it. Then it actually becomes an aspect of grooming, because then you're grooming that child to take care of her hair.
I totally agree. I totally agree where you're coming from. And from what you said, Sarah, when the missionaries came, when the missionaries came, these colonialists, when they came, they decided that our hair was nappy and we needed to cut it off and to look uniform.
Yes.
Yeah. But I am thinking, we were dealing with our hair before they came. All these styles we have of hair now, even the box braids, even the Bantu knots, this is what we used to do before their ships docked at the East African coast, and then they came in with their ideologies and everything. Yeah?
Yes.
So I think they scrapped off a very important part of our heritage,
Yes,
that it ended up being adopted by schools, because when you look at most of the schools that cut hair, they were missionary schools.
That's true.
And they set the pace for this, which has been carried on up to today. And what you're saying, Shivan, is it's archaic.
Yes.
Why are we adapting
Still
to
cutting
this?
is
Yeah, why are we
And
doing
you've
that?
said it itself, it's in our tradition. In my culture, the beauty of a woman lies in her hair. So if you cut off my hair, what are you telling me? That means I'm not beautiful. When I remove these braids, I have long, thick, natural hair. Why? Because my culture tells me a woman's beauty is in her hair. So when you tell me to cut it off, one, you're undermining my culture, but two, you're taking all my beauty.
That is very true. And that is a gimmick of what slave trade was. Like, they have to strip you psychologically of who you know you are. It all starts in the mind. Yeah, and to make us look uniform. They found us here very diverse. Why do we have to look uniform? And that's what they do to prisoners in their places.
True.
They used to do that, to cut off their hair and put them in uniform. That's what they used to do. So they came here and they were doing that to us.
True. I also think that I think the school system also neglects the fact that this is an area that could be explored and be taught as an income generating avenue, because when I went to my high school, we were allowed to keep our hair. You know, you could do anything with it. You could put your braids on the weekend, but Monday school uniform, you had to have like a neat puff. So we learned to do our own hair. Yes, they would provide us with people from the salon to come and help us do our hair. But we learned to do our own hair. I can relax my hair. I know how to blow dry my hair. I can know how to hot comb my hair. I know how to style my own hair. I can install my own braids. So now these are skills that are helping me today, as you know, as a young woman, or an older woman, whatever you may want to call me. I am able to save up on a lot of money that I would otherwise be spending at the salon, because now I'm able to do it myself. And I have a number of friends who have gone on to open their own salon businesses. And this is because the interest started from school. So I think a lot of our educators are missing the point somewhere. This is where you go wrong, okay? Allow the girls to have their hair. Okay,
Yes.
or at least give them the decision
To
choose whether they want to have their hair or not, because some girls may argue that, oh, my hair is too thick, it's too nappy, and it's hard to maintain.
Yeah.
While others, you know, would love, you know, to still have their hair regardless of how tough the maintenance is. So yes, I agree. Like, let it be. Leave hair alone. Okay, leave it alone.
I totally agree. Leave the hair alone. And I feel, as a child, when you go to a school and they tell you, okay, you need to cut your hair is an extension of who you are. It's your identity. Yeah, and there's different stuff that you do with your hair. It's creative. That's creativity. So why would you want to fit in so much? We are taught so much in this younger age to fit in. You have to be like everybody else. That doesn't this curtail our ambition?
True.
Yeah, doesn't it curtail it, because you're taught so much to fit in? But what's wrong with standing out? What's wrong with standing out and being expressive? Yeah, and embracing who you truly are in every facet of your life, yeah? Which leads me to this. Sometimes I would see girls would not trim their hair completely, and what they would do, they would punish them.
Oh my
and
gosh.
this was so psychological. And I remember you telling me, Shivan, that if it was not all the same, then they would get the cutter and just run it
In the middle.
so that you have to
You're
go
forced
and
to
have
cut
it
off.
cut,
Yeah.
or you are punished for this. I mean, aren't we deviating from why we are at school? You find this teacher, matron, following a girl, you need to cut your hair, you need to do this. Honey, I'm here to learn. Why don't we focus
Stick
on
to
that?
teaching me, impart
Yes.
knowledge.
Don't you think that's unfair?
Exactly, it's very unfair because you mentioned at the beginning of the topic, we're looking at compulsory hair cutting. And first of all, from the preamble, like the way you brought it up, we're looking at it from the aspect of, okay, schools actually used to do this probably for grooming, probably for us to look the same. But again, I think some schools lost it along the way, because if you start cutting children's hair as a punishment, then that means every time my hair is cut, I'm going to feel that I did something wrong. But again, I went through a school where there's a time I really had very long hair, and I think the time my parents had told me, no, it's okay, you can go to school, and me being stubborn, of course they had told them that you need to cut my hair, but I had insisted to have my hair on. So what do? I go to school and they cut me right in the middle. Now, one or two things, it traumatized me. It made me feel very low of myself. People kept on laughing at me. So in a way, I feel like schools have lost it, because now they use this as a form of punishment. Instead of me being proud of my hair, now I'm being criticized because I what? Because I have my natural black hair. And again, it was really, I just find that particular thing very, it's just not the right way to go. I think, and I do believe, that it should be a concern of all the students and parents and teachers. I mean, I should have a say, do I want to keep my hair? Am I able to maintain it? If I am, then I should be allowed. But we have lost it, because now we punish the young girls, especially the ladies, by telling them to cut off their hair, which shouldn't be like that.
Well, I understand where you're coming from. Maybe they have taken it a notch higher, you get, and they're going about it the wrong way. But to some schools, allow me to play the devil's advocate, yeah, to some schools, yeah, don't you think they do this for that uniformity that they're saying, so that they all see each other as the same, and one is not better than the other? Yeah, like, you remember when you went to school in the morning and at the parade, remember?
Yes.
You line up,
Yeah.
and every morning.
And there is no difference between a girl and a boy. That is the only uniformity I know in my mind as to why they made us cut our hair. Like, there was no difference between
you know what I
Shivan
mean?
and Mark, because we're all
Like
boys.
with your socks and everything, and you stood there and you all felt like equals. You know what I mean? Like from the aspect I'm coming from. Do you think that's why they did this, so that some other, like, imagine if you could pimp your uniform and be like, no, mine, I want a slit. Then here I want maybe that.
Feathers.
Feather.
Hey.
Sarah is such the fashionista. Feathers. Okay, feathers. You know, it would not give out that
But we
vibe
all
that they are
can't be
looking
equal.
for. Like, you're all on the same. What do you think, Sarah? What's your take
I
on
think uniforms should be for identity purposes, but to say that all children are equal is not. I do not agree with that, because every child has different talents and different strengths and different weaknesses. So I think schools should aspire to just have an identity. Okay, have an ID. How come at university we are not given uniforms? Do you understand what I mean? But what is given to you for identification is an ID. So I think we shouldn't dwell so much on this whole uniformity thing. I think it also stifles children's creativity, because if you allow children to express themselves the way that they want, I think we'll be able to even notice, when children are acting different and there's something amiss in their behavior. Do you understand? So if, say for instance, I went to school every day in bright colors, and then this one day I'm wearing all black.
You'd know something.
Yes, everybody will know something is off. Why is Sarah wearing black? She never wears black. What is that about? So I think it's about, uniforms should just be a source of identity. Get a badge, or
something.
or an ID, or a tag, or something, or maybe a sweater or blazer or something.
No,
but
but
I think it just I feel
I get where you're coming from, Sarah. I
children's
get where you're coming
creativity.
from.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you short, Shivan. But you've watched these movies, yeah, where they don't wear uniforms, yeah? They're so expressive and everything. But have you watched these teen movies where the other teen comes and like her sneakers are not the latest?
And
Or her and they laugh at her
yes,
because
that's
they are
true.
rich kids and they have this and that. Don't you think having a uniform and they tell you, you wear those black shoes, you wear those socks that are like this, so that you're all the same, so that you leave your status, social status at the gate. When you come in, you're equal in that context.
I think it is still
It will stop things like bullying and
It's-
things like that.
I don't think
No,
it
but
stops
also,
anything with
you
bullying.
see, when you put it that way, it does make sense, because there's my little niece I used to take to school, and her school would list down the requirements to the extent that I would even tell you what sort of biscuits to bring and what sort of drinks to bring. Why? Because they did not want to have other kids having soda and then for you have quencher. So they would say all kids bring quencher, all kids bring Jenga biscuits, all kids bring appeta. That is all that you need to bring. Why? Because they're trying to stop competition too, so that one does not feel lesser than the other. I understand where you're coming from, but again, I mean, we need to call a spade a spade. All children cannot be equal. You might say that we all carry quencher, and I'm probably allergic to quencher and I'm used to the good life. I'm just saying. So in a way, it does make sense, because there are schools that have actually set it as a way of, first of all, reducing on theft, but also making sure that all kids feel loved and making sure that they feel that they are not left out. Like now, like the example you gave, I mean, even that school will tell you everyone has to wear probably butter shoes and they have to be this design, whereby no one can come in boots, another one will come in this particular kind of shoes, because then your neighbor who is seated next to you will be like, oh, she has very nice shoes and I don't have, and then she will be made to feel small. So in a way, I think schools do it as a form to make children feel comfortable and make them feel that they are all equal in a way, but they're actually not. It's just the truth of the matter.
This is the thing, okay? We as parents or we as educators, we do our best to protect kids, right?
Yes.
But the thing is that when they leave school, they are met with the harsh reality that is society. And the world does not care about your feelings or how you may have been raised or what household you came from. I think we need to sometimes, from a tender age, let children know that there are different classes of people in society. Acknowledge them, they're there, see them, and let us teach children to act accordingly.
Okay.
Just because you have less does not mean you are less as a person. Just because you have less does not mean you cannot grow up to achieve more. And just because you have more at the moment does not mean it's always going to be there. So I think we need to start having these honest conversations with children, because you are just temporarily, you know, solving the situation. You say, oh, I came from a school where all of us were equal. Honey, no. In the world, it is survival for the fittest. And I think we need to let children understand that, understand your background, appreciate your background, and do better for yourself. Work hard every day to achieve and get those things that you want. I went to schools where we had children from all walks of life and from all classes of life. We had people, I went to a traditional school, we had children from the royal family, we had children from, whose parents were politicians, we had children whose parents were highly successful, business people. And we also had those who were on government sponsorship, because the primary school I went to was a government school, I guess, UPE at that time. So it had everybody, everyone. And we were aware, even though we still wore our, our uniforms, that was heavy as a sack. But you could still tell the difference in how some of these children behaved from others. Do you understand how they spoke, how they carried themselves? So I do not think a uniform or uniformity or cutting off their hair is still going to make children, feel like they belong. You're not, because it doesn't have to be a uniform. You sit with a group of people, and how they speak, how they carry themselves is clearly going to distinguish between you and them. So I think we need to just tell children, this is how it is. Let us manage it. Is it Let's manage it. Let's talk about it.
It reminded me of a story. There's a time, just a quick one. You know, you talked about the aspect of cutting and uniformity, and I told you the only thing that actually differentiates is the fact that we all looked alike. So one time I was having a quarrel with this little boy in my very young age at school, and I told him, by the way, are you sure? Are you aware that I'm a girl? Do you know what he told me? You're not a girl. And then he knocked my he knocked my bald head on top and said, you and me both have kawalata, you're not a girl. And it made me feel so bad. You see, my hair would have made me stand out.
Well, quite a conversation there. And Sarah has said something very profound. Maybe we should be having these candid conversations with our children and not just pull wool over their eyes, yeah, on what's going on. I mean, we live in a society that has social classes, yes? So the faster they realize this, the faster they can fall in line, and the faster they can even, it can propel them to be more ambitious.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't mean where you are is where you're going to be for the rest of your life. And yes, we have talked about teachers wanting kids to cut hair at schools and the uniforms and everything, but sometimes you never know. Maybe the parents want their kids to have short hair at home and they're very okay with it. So I guess it also depends on the home culture where a student is coming from. Well, that's all we had on our views one, but the conversation is still continuing and we're going to take a deep dive on this particular conversation with Sarah. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a bit.
Welcome back from the short break, and you're still watching Sunrise at Sea right here on CTV, and we are still in our views segment. Well, we started off the conversation with the question, why should school-going girls cut off their hair? And we begged to ask the question, is it outdated? Is it necessary? We also posted this question on our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we asked, should school-going girls cut off their hair? Please be a part of this conversation. We would love to hear from you, and we'll be reading your responses out later on in the show. So please leave your comment and don't forget to use the hashtag CTV Sunrise. Okay, I'd love to hear from you. So let's continue the conversation, ladies. So moving on, what really sparked this conversation yesterday was after the show, I shared a tweet from a lady called M. Cimenta, and she said, the tweet is coming onto your screen. Well, her tweet said, why must we force our daughters to cut off their hair when they can look after it? These practices stem from colonial backgrounds. We find that in our schools, other races are allowed to keep their hair. Yet our African children are forced to cut theirs. Hashtag unfair. And she tagged the Ministry of Education and Sports. She did not come to play.
Louder.
She wants to know.
Louder.
Moving on, she went on to share a conversation that she had, I think, with a friend of hers, and she said, her friend said, my daughter has the natural, beautiful, and extremely long hair. I did not tag the daughter's picture in the street because of privacy of the little girl. Gorgeous girl, by the way. Beautiful hair, I must add. And she said, I took her for interviews in a girls' boarding school today, and we were admitted. However, the head teacher said we must cut the hair off. Banangi, my heart is bleeding, and she is also very unhappy as she loves her hair so much.
I could give her a word of advice.
What is that?
What I used to do.
Violence.
Fix something.
We go and fight.
Fix something. So when you cut off your hair, you run mad. But I think that is very unfair.
So right now we are going to be discussing, is it formality or is it favoritism?
Favoritism.
Shivan?
It is favoritism.
You're coming guns blazing.
Favoritism.
How so?
We are pretending that these things do not exist, yet they actually exist in our society. How come it is only us, the people, the blacks, who are made to cut off our hair, especially in Ugandan schools? The two schools that I went to, us Ugandans were made to cut off our hair. The people who came from other countries were left to have their hair. And even when some of us insisted to have our hair, they wanted us to comb it Maria style. I'm like, but African hair is Afro. We need to embrace it. Why are you making us iron our hair like we come from these different countries?
Yes.
So it is plain out favoritism. How come majority of the schools allow other kids to have hair, but our very own who are here in Uganda are not allowed? And yet, funny enough, when you move to those countries in those different schools, you have to abide by their rules and regulations.
Yes.
But when they come here, they do not want to do that. For me, I'm going to call a spade today.
Hey.
Yes.
Yes.
It hurt me. It traumatized me.
So Sandra,
Yes.
you're mixed race.
Yes, I am.
And even if you are not, you'd still pass off as somebody who has. And what I'm hinting at is that girls who are mixed race in schools that I went to, one of my primary schools, because I went to 3 different primary schools, so one of my primary schools, the girls from other races, the girls who were Indian or European or, you know, mixed race in, you know, whichever capacity, were allowed to keep their hair, while the rest of us were told to shave it off.
I was still white.
It had to be, your head had to be as shiny as my forehead. No hair whatsoever, not even as short as 1 inch. It had to completely be gone. What was your experience in primary school or secondary school?
In primary school, actually, I remember when we moved from Kenya and we moved here, we went to a boarding school which cut hair. Yeah. Now my sisters went there before I did, my elder sisters, and they didn't cut their hair. My mom gave a reason, I don't know what reason she gave, but they didn't cut their hair.
Yes.
Now I was still in day school then, and I had my hair, but when I went on later to the school, I told my mom, you know what, because my sisters were living together in the same year, and I didn't cut my hair. When they left, I was like, you know, I think I'm going to cut my hair. And my mom is like, why? I'm like, first of all, I'm not hair crazed. I mean, it will grow. Second of all, I could make friends in school because the other kids didn't like me.
Yes.
They said, oh, for you get to keep your hair. The matron, my mom would bring tinned beef and what. So she would make me food and I would eat at the matron's place. But after a while, after my sisters left, I didn't have any friends, so I'm like, you know what, the hair has to go. I cut my hair. I stopped eating at the matron's house. And yeah, and I made friends that I have till today.
Yes.
I think favoritism, yes, there is favoritism in schools. But I think the schools, when I think of it like in depth, yeah, I'm thinking that, do these schools have an inferiority complex? Because I think it's an inferiority complex. I'm on both sides of the aisle. I'm mixed race. Yeah. So why are you imposing that? Why are you letting a parent who is not Ugandan come there and tell you, oh, my kid can't cut their hair? Because what is going to happen to you if you don't cut your hair? There is nothing that's going to happen to you.
Yes.
And I feel that we are sending to our children, our mixed race children, we are sending them a wrong message. We are telling them indirectly that they are better than everybody else, and then they walk around for the rest of their lives with a chip on their shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah, things in life will happen to you. Cutting your hair is the least of your problems. People get cancer and have to shave off their hair. You know, so life is like that. It will throw you curveballs, and you are supposed to fall in line and do what you have to do. So
Yes.
I think we should stop this. If people are cutting their hair, everyone should cut your hair.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you're from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I am a mother of boys, but if I had a girl, there's no two ways about it. She'd cut her hair. I'd cut it myself if
Yes.
she's going to a school.
If it's school policy, then
If it's
That's the
policy,
thing,
it's
school
policy.
policy. All kids, but not having some children have their hair and others are not. And those who have their hair are those with straight long hair. My friend, me, I'm African. My hair is Afro. It is supposed to be like this, and I'm proud about it. I'm not going to go to the salon and pull it and pretend to pull it. No, it is African, Afro, thick hair.
Yes.
Deal with it or deal with it.
Okay, so just a recap, I would like to let you know the practice stemmed back from the early 1900s. It's going to come up on your screen. And the missionaries trained students to be clerks, interpreters, and office messengers. And they said that they needed these people to be smart, referring to a neat, tidy appearance by encouraging these people to cut off their hair while they were in high school. So the missionaries were encouraging uniformity and smartness, a thing that they said was unachievable because African hair was complex or had complexities, as they said. I don't understand what they're saying, but we have seen a lot of women now in Uganda and young girls embracing their natural hair. I mean, Beyonce sings about it all the time, you know, brown skin girl, Wizkid. We have seen, you know, a lot of people singing how African hair is a crown and it should be embodied. For a very long time, we have been told that our hair is not good enough. For a very long time, women in corporate settings have not been allowed to have their hair braided or twisted or had their natural kinky curls on TV, even in journalism, even on media. We have been told before, I know when all of us started out, I don't know if we all started out at the right time, but when I started out, I was told natural hair, no. You can't go on TV with your buswaidi. You can't do pencil. You can't do braids. Nasika Chungira even made a comment about this, yes. And she said that it is unfair. How is it unprofessional? How does it bother you how I style my hair? And you want me to remove my natural curls and then adopt somebody else's hair on my head? Doesn't make any sense.
You know, here you are.
Yes. So there are a number of reasons as to why this trend or norm was started in schools. Number one, it says when girls grow their hair, they fall prey to sexual assault because they look beautiful and grown up. People mistake them for older women. Also, mind you, statistics also do show that about 5% of teachers do sexually harass children, and it also showed that about 3 out of 5 children have experienced some sort of either bullying because of their appearance or harassment from their teachers, either in through, it could be physical and it could also be verbal and also, you know, psychological or mental. So my question here is that, why is it that girls have to cut their hair? How about we tell teachers to not harass children? I don't know.
I'm telling you,
have
this
to deal away with our beauty.
This is the conversation that we should be having, because I feel that society has been so rough on the woman or the girl child.
They expect us to lower ourselves, to curl up in a ball in a corner because, oh my goodness, no, you may get the wrong attention. No.
That is unacceptable. If you are a pedophile, we should be looking at you like that. You even see in the news, they say, oh, 50 girls were raped. By who?
Thank you.
By who? Those people that were raped have a name.
Yes, why don't you say 50 men raped 50 girls? Or, you know? But girls are always, we are victimized so much. And like we should recoil and like, oh my gosh, God forbid I do this and this happens. Why don't we address those people? And to be able to let girls live free and express themselves.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of there was a time when I had just joined a campus, a certain university, and I think I was still doing training in a way, and they told me you cannot have painted nails, you cannot wear too much makeup and stuff. Why? Because you're going to fall prey of sexual assault. I'm like, but I want to do my nails. I want to wear my red lipstick. That shouldn't be a reason as to why I'm going to be victimized. So having my long hair out shouldn't be a reason as to you're going to look beautiful and then you'll be assaulted.
A distraction. They even call you a distraction.
A distraction? Like, embrace it. Can you allow us to embrace our being feminine and having the long hair? It is part of us. It is not our fault that God created us like this. You have to deal with it. There's a comment I saw some time back on my Twitter platform. I wish I'd actually brought it up. And the gentleman said a woman's body right from head to toe is like a trap. I'm like, my friend, that is according to you.
That is his insecurities. Let him leave us alone. Other reasons are that long hair can be expensive. Generally, African hair isn't easy to maintain. This is such a huge lie. Another one is that when you allow them to grow long hair, they will spend a lot of time on it, and this might affect their performances. I beg, who? What? How?
That was an excuse.
Let me give an example of girls that went to Gayaza High School.
Oh my God.
Every lady, a lot of women who are running this country went to that school, had natural hair. And you can easily identify a lady who went to Gayaza High School.
That is very true.
Exactly. So what do you mean is going to distract them from their academic performances in school?
Oh, you mean it's going to distract the teacher from imparting knowledge?
Now the teacher is the problem in this question. In this equation, it's the teacher who is the and then the other one, now this one baffled me, that and they said that we don't allow native girls, that is African girls with African heritage, to grow their hair because some will grow lice and they will spread it to the other students. I kid you not, guys. I kid you not. And I did get all this information from an article that was published by a lady called Naki Sanze Segawa. And you can please go ahead and find it on the internet. She did have a conversation with a number of different school head teachers and a number of students who were going to schools that were cutting their hair. She had a conversation with a lot of students who went to traditional schools, quote unquote traditional schools. This article was done in 2016, but it's definitely a good read. It was June of 2016, and she's a senior reporter. You can definitely look up this article and read about this. But before we go any further, we got some reactions from people, and have a look.
I'm Nora, and I'm from Hillside Primary School, Nalia. That idea of forcing children to cut off their hair, it isn't equal, because the international students get to keep their hair while the children in national schools don't get to. They can tell children to keep their hair, but then let it be like smart or something. For example, for me, when I'm at school, I have to cut off my hair all the time. I'm forced to cut it off because at our school they don't allow hair in boarding.
Sinzira ku ndowooza y'omuzadde oba omwana kyawulira kyayagala naye nze ng'omuntu omwana yandisaze enviira bamuzi bafuula ne comfortable nga bali ku ssomero naddala ba boarding.
My thought is that if the texture is hard and it's very painful to plait that hair, it takes a lot of time. The kid is not comfortable, the kid is in pain, because for the white people, plaiting their hair and looking after their hair takes a shorter time. So, because it takes a shorter time, they don't take so much time on the hair. Whereas Africans, we take a lot of time on our hair because of the texture. It's upon what the kid wants. If they are okay, because in life we make choices, and our choices have consequences. It's upon what the kid wants. If they want to keep their hair, and they are ready to go through the toughness of plaiting their hair, it's okay with them. But at a certain time they will make a choice of their own, like the same way they've made a choice that I'll keep my hair. When the consequences become tougher, they will make a choice of cutting it off.
That has a positive and negative side of it. When it comes to a positive side, like it's not like fair for some students who want to like keep their hair, because some of them want to keep it, and if they're forced like to like take it off, some of them will be bothered with it. But like when it comes to a negative side, it's good, because like many students plait different kind of hair. I mean, some plait long hair, which is kind of bothering, and sometimes you get this inchy thing in your hair and you start inching. It's also a bad side of it. So I believe it has a negative and a positive side. Some students, if they want to keep their hair, you can let them keep their hair. But if a student comes up and they want to like trim their hair, it's also a good side. That one is also like something else. Like if a school is like mainly accepting students to like plant hair, it doesn't have to segregate that some international students should like plant their hair and then these other students should trim their hair. It has to be like for all. If the international girls are planting their hair, then even the other girls should do the same. You don't have to like segregate the international and the other girls, because that won't be fair for some other girls. So I believe it's like, if it's like to plant, you plant. If it's like to trim, you do so to all the girls. Don't segregate.
Well, there you had it. I disagree with some of the comments because like the assumption is that people of other ethnicities, it's a lot easier for them to maintain their hair. But how do you know? You're not from there. You don't have that kind of hair. So how do you know? Another thing is that how about you allow the African girls or native girls to embrace their femininity? Because when we grow up, we are judged. There are women who cut their hair and then they're judged. They're called masculine. They're called men or whatever. You know, people throw out insults at them. How about you let a woman decide whether she wants to keep her hair or not? It is her hair. It is on her head. So who are you to tell her, you know, what she should do with her hair? And I think it's besides the point, because I do not think that hair is, you know, a huge distraction. There could be other things. There could be boys. They could be hunger. It could be the fact that maybe this child has other traumas that they're dealing with. So I think we're just over, you know, we are over just focusing on the wrong thing here. Anyways, before we go, I just want to read out some quick comments from our social media. And a gentleman here says, the practice is colonial in nature, does not prepare girls for the outside world, and is discriminatory in all forms. We need more progressive policies on hair in schools. Absolutely. And Vati Boy says, schools shouldn't do that, because I wonder how hair on the head hinders a child from understanding things taught at school. Some policies are ancient and should be dealt away with. Girls treasure their hair so much, leave it alone. I agree. Another gentleman here says, if it's primary or secondary school, it's not okay to have long hair. It makes other girls go for men who can give them money to do their hair like rich girls. Okay. And lastly, our last comment comes in from a gentleman called Daniel. And he says, there is no need to cut off someone's hair, because it is the brain that works and not the hair. And on that note, I will leave it at that. They have said everything that I wanted to say. Thank you for being a part of this segment of Our Views. Keep watching Sunrise at Sea and don't blink. I hope you had a really great time with us here on Sunrise at Sea. Unfortunately, Kira Notozo was not able to join us today because she's a little bit under the weather. So please send her all your love, your blessings and prayers so that she can get back onto set as soon as possible. So don't forget to remember that today is a new day, it's a new dawn, and we try harder today, okay? Try harder to heal, try harder to be kind, try harder to love, and you know, just be a better person in general. A big thank you to Fairway Hotel for working with us today on our lifestyle segment. I cooked my scrambled eggs at Farewell Hotel. Please try out the recipe. Let me know what you think. Well, until tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Keep it locked right here on CTV. Coming up is the CTV movie, and later on at 11 a.m. is Team Cash with the mid-morning dance party. Okay, have a great day from me and the ladies. We wish you a wonderful day. We love you. Until tomorrow, be good and keep safe.